Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. College professor giving his physics final exam. As the students were taking their test, near the end of the testing time, he interrupted them. He said, there's been some cheating going on campus, and I'm not going to have it in our class. So before you turn in your exam, I need you to sign this statement on your honor saying that you have received no outside help in this exam. So the students, they finished their test, they began to come up, and they signed the form, and there was one young man who looked really nervous. And he kept waiting back, and then he waited till everybody else had signed the form, turned in their test, and he comes up to the professor and he said, "Professor, I don't know if this is outside help or not, but I was praying through that whole test. I was asking God to give me the answers so that I could make an A on this test." And the professor looked over his test paper and scanned it, and he said, "Yeah, you don't have anything to worry about. God didn't help you here. Sign the form." How many of you grew up with a God who was outside of you? Most of us did. We grew up in a dualistic tradition that we believe that there's the human reality and then there is the divine reality, and we have to pray to some God up there, out there, who then will give us something we don't have. That's the way I was taught to pray. It's what I was taught about the nature of reality. And then I got to Unity, and I was told that this power of all creation is not separate, that we are part of it. There is a oneness, one power, one presence. And all the different faith traditions have sought to understand it, and they give it a name and describe some aspects of it, but we're all talking about the same thing: one energy, one life, one power. And that's in us, that we are part of the infinite creative reality of God. And so when we pray in unity, we're not praying to God, but we're praying from the reality of the indwelling Christ's presence. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," that's what we're praying from, that our connection. And so we're not praying, asking God to change his mind and giving something he or she's been holding out on us for, but we're praying instead for the truth to be revealed in our own lives. The way we understand it here is that God has already brought forth all blessing, continually giving this infinite love and power and possibility and wholeness, and we can hold it, we can receive it if our consciousness is on the same wavelength as it. And so when we pray, we're not praying to change God, we're praying to change us. And that is why we're doing this wonderful 7-week journey of discover the power within you. Because here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is the power is already in you, and the bad news is you got to find it. You have to do the work of discovering and plugging into this power. This is, if you don't have the book, even if you haven't been a part of the program so far, I really encourage you to get it. Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. Today we're working on chapters 8 and 9, and particularly chapter 9, the forgotten art of prayer. We're not forgetting about it today. I really could just read the chapter to you. It is so good. You know, I've been trying to bring forth a quote or two from Butterworth every week. It's really the whole thing. It's like, what can I leave out? It's so good. He says this: "You can never be separated from God because you are an expression of God, the very self-livingness of God. God cannot forsake you any more than gravity can forsake you. Life is consciousness. The problems we face indicate that our wires are down. We need to repair the break within ourselves. The only existence an error condition has, as far as we are concerned, is that we give it is that which we give it in our own thinking. That idea of using electricity as a metaphor Butterworth uses several times in this book. Think about this. You can have the electricity coming to your house, and you can still be sitting in the dark. What do you need to do? Turn the light on, plug in the lamp, put the bulb in. That is the same idea that we're talking about today with spiritual power. It's already in you, but you have to find some method of moving past your error thinking, your false beliefs, so you can reconnect. Your wires are down. Finding a way to plug into this power. And that's what affirmative prayer is. He says this, prayer does not deal with a capricious God. It is a technique for achieving unity with God and his limitless life, substance, and intelligence. Then he has 6 short statements here I want to share with you. Prayer is not something we do to God, but to ourselves. It is not a position, but a disposition. It is not flattery, but a sense of oneness. It is not asking, but knowing. It is not words, but feeling. It is not will, but willingness. Man, and he means humanity. Man is a thinking being, and the mind is the connecting link between God and man. Jesus is saying that prayer is not a matter of words or of outer forms. It is a matter of consciousness, of concentrated, rightly directed, spiritually oriented, positive thinking. Those are some good words. I'm going to read those again. It is a matter of consciousness, of concentrated, rightly directed, spiritually oriented, positive thinking. The law is, as he thinketh, so he is. This is the singular contribution of the New Thought movement into the spiritual world of practices and of spiritual practices. It's called affirmative prayer. The premise being that we are one with the infinite power and that we can direct our mind into alignment with this truth. This is affirmative prayer, this is affirmation, and then begin to see a different result. That the creative energy of life flows through us into the form which we have set using our thought, and we experience a different result. If you have never tried it, I encourage you to do so. The truth is, you have tried it. You're doing it all the time. Your thoughts are co-creating your reality with Spirit all the time. And often we are creating by default. We're creating by the old tapes and patterns of belief from scarcity that our parents taught us. There's not enough to go around. We're creating from our old belief that the other shoe's going to drop. It's not going to stay good. And we begin to use it that way. And what we do in affirmative prayer is align it consciously. We have a tool, a technique that we can begin to say, God is all there is. I am one with it. Therefore, I now see, I now experience, I now accept. That realization step which we teach is that's where we begin to describe a different reality, not based upon our want or our wish, but upon the truth of who we are as sons and daughters of God. And we describe it. I love when he said it's not the words, it is the feeling. The words are designed to point us to the truth. There's a teaching from the Buddha that said have a finger pointing at the moon and people are always talking about the finger. But it's the moon. The words are not, it doesn't matter. There's not like a set of particular words we're going to say and get our stuff. We use words that will awaken the Christ within. We use words that will open something within us. When I'm doing this affirmative prayer practice, I will speak it, and I will speak it. I will describe it, I'll describe it, and then there's something, I can't tell you exactly how or what it is, but something cracks open. And I have a feeling of, this is not just a wish or a hope. This is truth. I'm telling the truth about me. I'm telling the truth about you if I'm praying for you. Something happens. I think Jesus knew something about this prayer, this idea of connecting to the faith-filled, absolute knowing of who and what God is. His disciples, one time they asked him, Rabbi, teach us to pray. And he said this. I think we have it on screen. So I would like you to say this prayer with me when we get it up here. I know it's coming. And sometimes we usually would stand and sing this in our service, but today we're going to sit and we're going to speak it, but from a prayerful attitude, from our heart being open. And I know that sitting is also a very valid way to pray, because on the day of Pentecost, it said all the disciples were seated in the upper room and something good happened. So it's okay. We can pray while seated. Let's take a breath. Together. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Thank you, God. How many of you called that the Our Father growing up? There are my ex-Catholics in the room. Current Catholics, I see you. So, Methodists, we just called it the Lord's Prayer. In the 12 steps, we often said it at the end of the meetings there too, and they changed one of the words. Deliver us from ego. More on that later. So Eric Butterworth does an amazing teaching on the Lord's Prayer in this chapter 9 of his book, Discover the Power. I'm going to kind of dip into it, kind of offer some of my own insights into it. I'm going to skip around in the prayer. But what I've come to understand through my own study and through teachings by other amazing Bible scholars, that this prayer comes from a deep understanding of oneness and connection, and it addresses everything we need to know about life, past, future, and present. So I'm going to begin with the past. How do you know that you are not completely healed from your past? If you're not 100% okay with everything that has ever happened in your life, you got a little work to do. If you have any resentment of another or any feeling of guilt for yourself, there's work to do here. Jesus said, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." How many of you thought that God was mad at you when you came to church? I certainly did. I thought that I had messed up. God had a list, kind of like Santa Claus, making a list, checking it twice, going to find out who's naughty and nice. And then if I did wrong, God got mad. I think I was 30 years old before I realized that was my mom that lived in my head, not God. When I got to Unity, I was told that God is not mad at us, that we don't need to be forgiven by God for being human. That's not it. Who do we need forgiveness from then? Ourselves and each other. That we are responsible for the choices we make, and if we are unwilling to own our actions and forgive ourselves, we will be stuck in the past in some way. And the same is true for those who have trespassed against us. If we are holding someone as being wrong, we are stuck in the past. It was John and I were listening to an interview with Marianne Williamson on the Course in Miracles, and she was talking about this concept that Jesus taught throughout the Bible, but also in the Course, that whenever I'm holding anyone else as judgment, the sword is hanging over my own head. Judge not, lest you be judged. This is a deep teaching that if I am holding anyone as outside of God, as being less than of the one power, then I have taken myself outside the circle of oneness. And so we're going to talk about this in week 6. It's forgiveness and healing, so I'm going to leave it there for now. But the short answer of this, to be free in the past, according to Jesus in the Lord's Prayer, is forgive everybody for everything, including yourself. The present. Now here I'm going to talk about two different things. There is the temporal present, and then there is the eternal now. They're different, but they relate. We live in this incarnate reality where we were born. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you didn't know there's an end coming, now you found out. This is all temporary. And every moment of that journey, there is a now, like this now. Now, that was in the past. Now, I mean this now. No, not then, this now. You get it? That there is a now. And what did Jesus teach again and again are we to be concerned with now? Give us this day our daily bread. In the Greek, it's the imperative form of give us. It's not beseeching, asking, could I please have some bread, sir? More, please. It's not that. It's declarative, it's imperative. Give. Give us this day. And Jesus is not telling us to be rude. He's telling us to claim our divinity, that we're one with it. Look at the flowers in the fields. Look at the birds of the air. They don't worry about their retirement plan. They understand that they're part of an infinite web of life, of source and supply, and that all needs are met, and you can trust life. Now, part of trusting life is using your wits, your brains, your heart, your intuition to make good plans and to save and prepare. Absolutely. I'm not saying we don't do those things. We do. And we trust. Because I know a lot of people here are nearing retirement or just started retirement, and they tell me, you've told me, do I have enough? Trust. Trust that this day your daily bread is already given to you. And this also begins to move us into the future, because it is our fear of the thing that hadn't even happened yet that keeps us from the now. Because I'm thinking 20 years, in 20 years, where will I be? When right now my daily bread is already given to me. So if we begin to trust that life is supplying us, claim it. Give us this day what we need. We begin to live from that sense of supply and even from the overflow. And we allow God to bless us richer and more richly in every day. And then the future. What if this was as good as it got? Our political system is only going to get worse from here. This body, it's breaking down. We can be in that place of like, it's not going to get any better. Humans don't like to live without hope. Have you noticed? There's something about us that is geared towards evolution and becoming. We've been working on our new guiding words. We'll be revealing those actually next week to you. But there are 3 values that that really came forward from the team. It's being, becoming, and belonging. And we are being the presence of God as we are, indwelling Christ's presence in human experience. And we are becoming, we are growing, we are revealing, there's something new, there's a next coming for you. And this prayer addresses that too. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. You see, we understand that it can be better. What we have could be better. So we can be in gratitude that things are as they are and still open to a greater experience of good in our lives. Thy kingdom come through me and through you. And when we live in the temporal present, trusting God that our needs are met, and then we welcome in the infinite flow of good through us, we touch the eternal now. And we can live in the true life that we are created to live, which is the life of God. That's what we're about. Encourage you to get the book if you don't have it. It's a beautiful, beautiful metaphysical interpretation of the prayer and all of the lines he goes into. The last one I want to work on a little bit with you today is lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Charles Fillmore did some research, other scholars have done the same, and said that lead us not into evil, into temptation is not really what the text was trying to say in the original Greek. A more accurate translation would be leave us not in evil, leave us not in temptation. I don't believe God is tempting you. And also, the thing that this temptation, it's not the chocolate cake. That's not the temptation we're talking about. The temptation to believe we are separate from God. That is the temptation that we don't want to be stuck in. Leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from ego, which will seek to separate us from our knowing of God as oneness, as who we are. Did anybody watch the Astros last night? That was fun. It was late, though. I think they should start the games earlier for we preacher folk. This team, they have the best road record in the league. Did you know that? They play better away than at home. It's counterintuitive because typically that home field advantage means you got your people behind you and they're yelling for you and they're going, yeah, you can do it. We love you. We're a part of this with you. John thinks I'm hilarious because I'm helping them win by my cheering. I am, and I get very upset when we're not winning. For a minute. I'm part of the home field advantage. Your home field advantage can be a spiritual community, very much like this one. To have a group of people that are rooting for you, they're saying, we know who you are, we believe in you, you can have whatever it is God wants you to have, whatever your desire of your heart is, it's yours. You can be the best you you've ever dreamed of. That's who you are. Yay! Go for it. But the Astros, a better travel team. What is that? Well, I was watching the game last night, and those Boston fans, and I do want to acknowledge that God is present in the Boston Red Sox too. Bernadette. It's true. You know, fanatic, a fan is a short for the word fanatic. Did you know that? And they had some fanatics in that stadium last night. They were cheering for their Red Sox. They were ready. And it can get in the head of the visiting team, but not these Astros. They don't listen to the haters. As a matter of fact, one of their favorite sounds is when they score a couple runs and it just goes, gets real quiet. Fenway Park just goes, There are a lot of voices in your life that will tell you you're not all that. I know your history, you're not all that. There are a lot of voices in your own head that will tell you you're not all that. Don't believe the haters. Find the joy of hearing those voices go, because you're demonstrating the great life that you have been given. That you are who God calls you to be. You are the light of God. You are the light of the world. That's who you are. And prayer can be one of the ways that you begin to connect to it on a daily basis. Plugging in, remembering, there is one power, one presence. I am one with this infinite, and I speak my word of truth now over my life. Something's happening here. There is a sense of a quickening, an awakening, that people who are willing to step out and be what God has called them to be. And you know what? If you look around our world, we need you now more than ever. We need people who are woke. We need people who are alive and willing to be the light of God in our politics, in our schools, in our families, in our hospitals. We need you to be exactly who you are. One last word about the Astros. They don't have a perfect record this season. There has never been a perfect record in Major League Baseball. I think there's been one in the NFL, the Dolphins in the 70s sometime, but never in baseball. A really great team is going to lose about 40% of the time. You don't have to be any more than human. It's all about remembering who we are, because we remember and we forget. We remember and we forget. Just don't quit remembering. I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.